Hello everybody, welcome to Monday's edition of the Pritchard Cycling News Show. Now, before we get into the predictability of telling everybody that Mathieu van der Poel won at the weekend, Selena, Del Carmen, Alvarado also won at the weekend, let's take a look at some funny videos on Tinter's web. And this one was sent in by a good 3 or 4 people. So if you sent this across to me, thank you very much. But check out this brand new ad from Peloton.
Let's do this. Lee in Manchester, you're amazing. Chris in Southampton, you're stronger than you think, buddy. Andy in Falkirk, your bollocks have slipped out the side of your shorts, mate.
If you're offended, I'm not even sorry. Next up is this video here of this guy doing, I mean, I've counted 4 flips, but there could be more than 4 flips. Check this out. Absolutely insane.
Oh my God!
Absolutely insane. I can barely do a forward roll nowadays, let alone one backflip on a BMX. I would break my neck. Anyway, let's take a quick transition and then let's talk about that cyclocross news. Pish. It was the Brussels University cyclocross race over the weekend, and as you would expect, Alpecin Phoenix, the brand new Corindon Circus team, took it to everybody else and came out on top. In the elite men's race, Mathieu van der Poel took the victory from second place, Eli Izabe, and in third position was Corne van Kessel. The likes of Toon Aerts, Laurens Sweeck, Wout van Aert and Quinten Hermans all sat out this round in favour of resting ahead of the Belgian Championships next weekend. And over in the women's event, it was Selena, Del Carmen, Alvarado who took the Brussels University cyclocross victory after beating Anne-Marie Verst into second place, and Sana Kant took third position overall. And in fourth place was a great result for the youngster Anna Kay from Great Britain. Next up, and with only a couple of weeks now to go to the start of the Tour Down Under, things are looking, well, everybody knows what's going on in Australia at the minute, but it's likely that the race is still going to take place. The Tour Down Under organisers are monitoring air quality and where the fires are, and hopefully everything gets sorted there eventually, but hopefully the race is also going to be taking place. And sticking with cycling events, one event that isn't going to be taking place this year, and it's a massive shock really to everyone here in the UK, and that's the Eddie Soens race early in the season over in Aintree. According to the race organisers of the Eddie Soens Memorial Cycling event, they've had to cancel the event as it is no longer economically viable. They've operated in recent years without sponsorship, instead using legacy funds and entry fees to stage the event. However, in a statement, the organisers have blamed the escalation of costs as well as reduced field size imposed by British Cycling for their decision to discontinue the race. So for those of you who don't know, the race was created in 1962 by the Kirby Cycling Club over in Merseyside, and it's run around the Aintree motor racing circuit. And this race has run every single year since, apart from 2006 I think it was, when they had to cancel it due to snow. But the beauty of this race is, well, it feels like it's the start of the racing season here in the UK once the Eddie Soens gets underway. And it's a handicap race as well, so you've got the likes of some of the best professional riders in the UK scene racing alongside. You've got women in there, and you've also got juniors and youngsters. I think one of the first juniors to win the race was a certain Steve Cummings, who won that way back in 1999, I think it was. You got the likes of Ed Clancy, he's won it a couple of times, I think 3 times. Russell Downing's won it. Matt Bottrell won it last year when he just took off and just lapped the whole field. So it's one of those races where anything can happen, and because it's at the start of the season, you get some people who are in really good form. Some people actually target the Eddie Soens race as well. So it's going to be a shame to actually see it off the calendar this year. Once again, British Cycling doing everything they can to stop racing here in the UK. Cracking effort, British Cycling. Alright, and next up in the news, one of the biggest news stories over the weekend was, in fact, I need to get this book out for this, because it's time to dust off the Chris Froome Conspiracy Theory book. And now for the next instalment of the Chris Froome Conspiracies. Chris Froome left training camp early and has cast doubts over his recovery. But surprisingly, nobody's been that harsh about it. I took to Twitter to expect to see just tweet after tweet after tweet after tweet about his reasoning for leaving this training camp. But it looks legit. Chris Froome just looks like he's not in the shape he should be in when he's attending these training camps. And it's looking likely that he ain't going to be ready for the Tour de France. Listen, I'm sure his recovery is going amazing. And if he was a normal human being, people will be going, that's amazing to be back at work in that short period of time, to be back to that standard, good. But he needs to be at a point now where he's almost racing, and maybe he is. Maybe he's going to head to Australia. Maybe it was just all a bit of a trick. Maybe he just wanted to get people talking, I don't know. But as the story goes, Chris Froome has apparently suffered a setback in his return from injury, having left the Team Ineos camp early, with one of his sports directors saying he doesn't know if the 4-time Tour de France champion will recover. And as great as it would be to see Froome there, you know what Team Ineos are like. They leave no stone unturned, and I think they will know at this point, so early in the season, just where he needs to be able to compete at the Tour de France. And if he's nowhere near that, then they're going to readjust that roster, and they're not going to allow him to go to the Tour de France. They're not just going to give him a chance to go to the Tour de France, hoping that he'll ride himself into form. I don't think Team Ineos are that stupid. So they're going to put their eggs back in the basket of Egan Bernal, potentially Geraint Thomas, which might mean that Geraint Thomas now comes in and does the Tour de France as opposed to going to the Giro, which I think he was going to. So Carapaz will probably go to the Giro. G will probably move himself across to the Tour and give Egan the better chance of having a better super domestique in there to take a second victory. And I mean, if it all goes wrong for Egan, then you have got G there to pick up the pieces, who's more than capable of winning a Tour de France. And don't forget, Team Ineos no longer have Wout Poels, so they need all the arsenal that they can get in that Tour de France to make sure that they secure that victory. But anyway, Froome took to Instagram to try and dispel any sorts of rumours or conspiracies or anything like that by saying this. I hope that I can set this straight. I was last at a training camp at the beginning of December. My recovery is going well, and I will be heading onto my next training camp on Thursday. Onward! Fist bump emoji. Probably what would have cleared it up even better was saying, this is the reason I left this training camp early. I had to leave there because I had the shits. Listen, our lass at home, been struggling with kids the last few days. I've had to go home because it's Christmas. It's a bloody nightmare. I'm just going to have to go home and look after kids for a while she gets a bit of R&R. Or whatever the reason was, just let us know. I mean, I don't care what the reason was, but it just squashes any other rumour. Just coming in and saying, I hope this clears it up. I was once at a training camp when I was 15. And I'm going to another one soon. Sorted. See there? Tell you what though, the best part was the reply that Luke Rowe gave Chris Froome. Check this out. But fake news! I've never seen you at a camp! And some people surprisingly didn't get that joke whatsoever. What can you do? But leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think to Froome's recovery. I don't care about the conspiracies anymore. I don't think there's anything more than either him not getting the recovery he needs, because these people are dealing in finite numbers. They can tell if he's going well, whether he feels it or not. They know exactly what's going on, and if they don't feel that he's performing the way he should be, not recovering as quick as he should be, not being able to get as many hours on the bike as he should be, then they can say, listen, go home, you need to go home and rest, and you need to do X, Y and Z, and then come back to the next training camp. So is it much of a muchness, the fact that he's left this now? Are we going to see him at the Tour de France still, or what? I don't know. Leave your comments down below. Next up, and fellow YouTuber Phil Gaimon is back in the news. Now, Phil Gaimon, if you don't know, ex-professional American road racer, decided to come out of retirement and try and make the Team Pursuit team for Team America in the 2020 Olympics. In doing so, took himself to Trexler Town, started racing again on the track, and in doing so had a chute terrible in his first race. Broke his scapula, broke some ribs, punctured a lung, put himself into a proper state. And now to top all that off, he's just received a bill for $250,000. So part of Phil's YouTube channel is his Worst Retirement Ever series, where he revisits places he's been to in the past as a cyclist and actually goes and rides them for fun. Tries to take KOMs and ultimately just has a good time on his YouTube channel. As well as that, He's also raised £100,000 for No Kid Hungry over in the US, which is phenomenal. But now he's stuck with this medical bill for $250,000. So the story coming out of Cycling Weekly says that while Gaimon had insurance, the hospital spent 3 days looking for a surgeon who could operate on his shoulder. Gaimon told Cycling Weekly it was a bad break and a complicated surgery. Now, unfortunately for Gaimon, no surgeon could be found, and he was transferred to another hospital which turned out to be out of network for his insurance provider. Gaimon says the insurance company should still honour it, as they couldn't find an in-network surgeon as they didn't exist. I never got a price or estimate, just a bill a month later for 96 grand. Hey! So not only did Gaimon receive this bill for 96 grand, which, so blessed here in the UK. Yeah, it's on its knees, but still. Not only did he receive this 96 grand bill, he also received another one out of the blue a week later for $150,000. He said the first hospital was all emergency. I didn't have any explanation as to why they're not covering that yet. That bill only came out a few weeks ago of $150,000. Gaimon continues and says, at all times I was on heavy narcotics and literally rolling around in pain, not really able to think. The decisions I made were just what I could do to feel alive again, or they were made for me. Man, again, coming back to the NHS, the fact that if you're in that kind of a state that Phil must have been in, that you can just lay there and you don't even have to think about it. You can just accept the help you are given in the knowledge that you've paid for this via tax, right? You don't have to worry about a bill. You don't have to worry about signing things and agreeing to things, whether you're going to take this kind of pill or you're going to go for one of these types of scans because it's going to cost you X, Y, and Z. You just get treated here. Where over there, so you're high on drugs that they've already given you, you're high on pain that you've been suffering for the last few hours, then they come to you with a piece of paper saying, right, this is going to cost you X amount of money. Who's not going to just say, just do whatever, just sign it? And in doing so, you get lumbered with $250,000 worth of bills. Now, Phil being in the position he was in could potentially, if he knew that this wasn't going to get paid for by the insurance company, could set up a GoFundMe and ask his audience, just say, listen, please just donate a little bit to help me cover these costs. And they probably would have. But being the guy that he was, he said, listen, I could get you to pay for these bills and help me out financially, like other people have done in the past. But instead of doing that, if you were going to give me some money, if you felt like you were ready to give me some money, why don't you give it to this charity that I'm trying to raise money for? And in doing so, like I said before, Phil's raising money for No Kid Hungry, where they're trying to end child hunger over in America, and in doing so has raised over $100,000. And from this accident, he's obviously actually raised some more, so he's got something good out of it. So Phil's next plan now is to hire a lawyer, try and get them to go through the paperwork, sort it out, and hopefully get that insurance to cover the $250,000. The fact that it even happens is mental. I went to Trexlertown, and I don't even know if I had insurance. So if I'd have crashed there, I would have been absolutely screwed. I must have had insurance. I wouldn't have gone out there without insurance. But it just shows you how taking part in a sport, we spoke about earlier in the UK, the fact that the Eddie Soens was cancelled, the fact that people don't get the opportunity to race. But over in America, potentially people might not take part in races for fear of falling off, crashing. In fact, let me ask you, so people over in America, people who pay for their own medical insurance and medical bills, does that affect your decision as to whether you go out and do your hobby, that you take part in an event that you want to take part in, whether you go racing, whether you do a Gran Fondo? Do you take that into consideration when starting these hobbies? Or do you think, my insurance covers it, I don't need to worry, I just crack on and do whatever I want? I don't know. Because over here in the UK, I don't even question it. Like if I want to go and race, I just go and race. I don't think, yeah, but if I race and then crash, then I'll have to pay £250,000. I don't think that. I think, oh, I don't really want to be off work, and if I crash I won't be able to look after the kids, but I don't think, I'm not racing because I don't have to pay that in case I do fall off and crash. I don't know. Leave your comments down below. And that's your news for today. One last thing before we go, down in the link in the description is our brand new CyclingHub.cc website. Please feel free, go and check it out. Let us know what you think about it. It just gives you an overview as to what the Cycling Hub are doing this year. As ever, don't forget, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you've not done already, and hit that notification bell so you know when we go live with our videos, or we go live with our live streams, which are coming back very shortly. Thanks for watching. Oh, and if you've not liked the video, hit that dislike button. I don't care.